Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to you today. My name is William Niven, and as Martin said, I'm a consultant in emergency medicine at the Homerton Hospital. I did this piece of work at the Royal London Hospital, and as you can see over there, there were quite a few people that helped with this. So Code Red, for those of you who don't know, is the major hemorrhage and trauma protocol that's used at the Royal London. There were 198 Code Red patients in 2016, of whom 154 survived, so that's a 78% survival rate. The Royal London is a world leader in the coagulopathy of trauma, and just about every patient that actually comes through as a Code Red gets involved in a clinical trial. Now, the proverbial chain of survival applies in trauma just as it does in all life support practice, and this can be best described as starting from the bystander first aid, then moves on to the emergency service dispatch, any critical life-saving interventions that are performed at the roadside, for example, intubation or chest thoracotomies. They then need to be transferred to the appropriate unit, which in this case is the Royal London Major Trauma Centre. Once they're actually in the major trauma center, they're further resuscitated and stabilized, often with packed cells, platelets, and plasma in a 1:1 ratio. The aim is then obviously to make a rapid diagnosis of the injuries using the primary survey, ultrasound, and CT. And then we decide what definitive treatment that the patient needs, which could be theater for surgery, it could be interventional radiology for embolization, or it could just be high-level ITU care. From there, the patient is transferred into intensive care setting, post-procedure, and then hopefully over time they are rehabilitated. Now, for the purposes of this study, I'm pretty much concentrating we were concentrating principally on these main areas. So the kind of the quality of the resuscitation, the diagnosis, and the onwards disposition to definitive treatment. So, regarding this particular time frame, Code Red is essentially a 3-course meal which requires a number of vital ingredients. Personnel-wise, you need nurses, you need an ITU registrar, you need some surgical specialities, you need somebody helping out the ITU registrar, you need somebody to write down everything that's going on because there's a lot of data coming through. You need a radiographer to take your x-rays and then to do your CT. You need somebody to read the CT promptly. And then actually you need one person specifically dedicated to getting blood samples for cross-match and for biochemical profiles. And then you need kit. So you need action cards for all the people that are actually performing the various kind of tasks on the patient. You need a fully stocked bay. You need an ultrasound machine that's actually switched on. You need an adjacent CT scanner so that you can get the patient in and out quickly. And you need a blood fridge with blood products on hand. So for the entree, you need to get out the pre-arrival checklist, make sure that everyone has their action cards, put everyone at ease with introductions, and then tell them about the patient that's coming in, and make sure that all your resuscitative kit is good to go. We then move on to the main. So the patient arrives, and you get them onto the hospital trolley. You take the handover from the pre-hospital team, get a set of vital signs whilst performing a primary survey, do any further life-saving interventions, and then you need to perform a fast scan to see if there's any free fluid, which is in this case is normally blood, and then you decide whether they are too unstable to go for further imaging and need to go directly to theatre, or whether you've got time for CT. And for the dessert, most of the time you do actually have time for a CT scan. You request a scan from the radiologist and order it. That can be quite complicated as well using the Cerner system at the London. You ensure safe transfer to and from the CT scanner. You need to read the scan expeditiously, and then, as I said earlier, you need to decide what the definitive treatment the patient needs. So to make this happen smoothly, one needs a good chef, someone who can meld the ingredients together, handle the sous chefs, season with appropriate directions, and ensure that the kitchen remains functioning in good working order. In reality, it looks more like this. So I remember actually hearing about Code Red before I first worked at London. It was spoken of in whispers and hallowed terms, and I was in awe when I saw it being performed for the first time. After that, I decided which codes had been run well, which perhaps less well, and I developed my own ideas about how I would do it when I was the team leader. And so when it was my turn to be chef, I stepped up to the pedestal, and it felt like this. So we're all meant to reflect when things go wrong. And in the aftermath, I realized that despite having watched a number of Code Reds and developed a great theory about how it should be done, it was a very different animal in practice. And what this meant was that either I was rubbish, or my experience was generalizable to the majority of new doctors and nurses. Well, my poor little ego couldn't manage the rubbish option, so I began chatting to a few people about how the Code Red process could be improved. And what we did is we formed a quality improvement group, which we called CRED QI. And that got representatives from all the various specialities and departments involved in a standard Code Red practice. And we started by looking at what were the issues that most affected good practice. And we came up with a list of 4 things that needed addressing. Firstly, the IT and electronic ordering system, which was and remains unnecessarily complicated, click-intensive, and none of the available printers ever actually seem to be working in recess. Secondly, education and training. ATLS in its current iteration does not incorporate the huge human factors element of trauma management. It can't prepare you for the sheer number of people who arrive, how to keep your bandwidth open, delegate, modulate your voice, and work collaboratively and simultaneously with others. Sorry, just having a freeze moment here. There are big environmental factors. The resuscitation room is noisy, crowded, and a confined space to work in. The surroundings are unfamiliar, and new clinicians often suffer from severe cases of I don't know where stuff is itis. And then there are personal factors. These are scary, multiply injured patients, and the full-on reality of sick trauma patients in front of you can be extremely off-putting if you're not used to it. So faced with this array of issues, we needed a comprehensive solution. So when in doubt, sim it. Well, the IT issues were refractory to anything resembling a proper solution, but we did do a root and branch review of the action cards, which were 8 years old and needed updating. We increased the number from 6 to 13, rebranded them, adding a nice red border, and the red mnemonic, which essentially stands for register yourself with the scribe, envelop yourself in PPE, and document register yourself with the team leader, envelop yourself in PPE, and document your attendance with the scribe on iView. And we followed the format of the previously described 3-course meal, making them easier to digest. And we also added an exit checklist for when patients leave the department to go for definitive treatment. My friend and colleague Billy English, who you'll hear from shortly, had access to Google Glass, and so an idea began to take shape that we could use them to give multiple perspectives of the same scenario for all the roles reflected in the action cards. In addition, we had 2 GoPro cameras for some more conventional footage. So to enhance the reality, we used expired blood products, which we didn't actually administer to the patient. We hired an actor, who was also Billy's friend, a lot of Billy references over here. And we recruited doctors and nurses from the various specialities outlined earlier. We decided to do the whole thing early on a Saturday morning, when we had the least chance of interrupting business continuity, and we bribed the participants with boatloads of pizza. So I'm sure you're all dying to see the video and get a taste of what it looks like, so here goes.
As the 25-year-old male, cyclist versus HCV is code red, and he ETA via air to the pad is 15 minutes.
Through the pre-arrival check, yes, okay. So next in charge contacted, yes, the consultant or me, requested trauma pack, yes, when trauma consultants that contacted through switch, blood imaging are being requested now, yeah. Trauma line is set up, yeah. 12:20 bids coordinated forms. Yeah, next one will be ready if you need it. Brilliant. Transfusion pack being requested? Yeah, and we declare progress. Okay.
Good morning all, this is Matt. He's a 25-year-old male who is a cyclist versus HTT with GCS 15 on seeing, moving or limbs. Injuries head to toe, significant bruising over the abdomen and a closed open pelvic fracture. Interventions is at a 111 RSI with a rock time of 9:56 and he's had 1 gram of tranexamic acid. He's had 2 units of blood en route and his last systolic blood pressure with us was 85.
Okay, that's great, thanks Neil. Right, we have primary survey and blood please.
Right, the trachea is nice and central, there's no obvious open chest injury, no surgical emphysema, the chest expansion is equal bilaterally, breath sounds equal bilaterally, there's obvious bruising on the anterior abdominal wall.
He's got blood pressure rating form, his end tidal is 4, with a heart rate of 100, the next fastest positive that we can probably go to CT.
Looking at the right upper quadrant, no free fluid. I'm now looking in the left upper quadrant, no free fluid in the subsidy window, and I can't see any pericardium.
Okay, so I'm ready to go through. Can you check the camera screen? Yes. Okay.
Ready, brace, flight.
Particularly on the right hand side, and also blood related to the complex pelvic fracture we've seen on X-ray, which is right-sided on the left abdomen and the island. It looks like a nasty fracture, and the remaining is solid viscera.
How is your dynamics then?
The rat 9, it's a solid rat 19 came in having had 2 units of blood from the head, but he's just dropped his blood pressure just after we did the CT head, so he's having pack A at the moment, so he's had another further cracked blood cell and immune cancer as well, so he's next stable in the ward.
So given these findings that you're showing us here, what probably the next best step is to go to the theatre, maybe prepare the packing and do the next lab too. And we've got a pack being ordered. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to stage 12.
Okay. We are going to go to stage 12. Do the neighbour time. Okay. The plan procedure is 3 grams of aspirin and it's working laterally. Yeah. So let's go through the checklist. So 10 grams times 2. Oxygen supply next inspiration and tank position.
Correct, yeah.
Airway secure. Yes. Breathing and ventilation adequate. Yes. IV access well secured. Yes. We've got blood products, cafe and real-time log. Yeah. Monitors attached. We've got a transfer bag.
Yes.
Such unit trolley. Yes. Emergency drugs. Yes. Do we need any special kit? Transfusion. We told them that we're going to sit as well. Great. Have we got the drugs form back for the limit? Yeah. And of course we've got a medication. Yeah. Brilliant. Okay, we're ready to go. Again, the whole team can come on hand over with this.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone.
So there are currently 5 of these videos in circulation that can be viewed on YouTube, and eventually we'll have videos for the blood SHO, surgery, the A&E team leader, or the team leader, ITU, nursing, and we'll also do one kind of a film of the lab and getting the blood products ready in the laboratory laboratory setting. What we hope is that these videos will form part of an induction package in which you'll be able to view the whole scenario and then click on the video for your speciality to get its unique perspective. Going forward, we still need to measure the effectiveness of this tool around the induction period, and I'd be grateful for your thoughts about how we might be able to accomplish this. Finally, this study would not have been possible without the extraordinary help of Anne Weaver, Roselle Talek, Nikki Davies, and Billy English, who you again will hear from shortly. And thank you very much for listening.